There's no telling where Poppy might pop up, what she might do, and who she might be working with. But who is she really? How did she come up with her particular character, and what's her endgame with all this oddness? Let's take a look at the untold truth of Poppy. Poppy's real name is Moriah Pereira, but as her bizarro YouTube character feels equal parts artificial intelligence and extraterrestrial, she's understandably rather restrained when it comes to her personal life.
I know secrets.
She has been known to lift the veil of secrecy on select occasions, including her big 2019 interview with NME. While the article notes that Poppy the artist is notorious for her robotic, quote, emotionally guarded presence, it also manages to dig deeper into the person behind the veil. She reveals that she had a difficult, lonely childhood in Nashville and was bullied to the extent that she was eventually homeschooled. Ironically, she was bullied for being, quote, skinny and quiet, which combined with spending a chunk of her childhood alone with just her computer for company sounds an awful lot like building blocks for her eventual Poppy character.
Sometimes I think about my past and it feels real foggy. Almost like it doesn't exist.
Pereira eventually got a record deal with a major label, moved to Los Angeles without notifying anyone, and started building herself under the stage name That Poppy. It soon transpired that her deal was awful, and she was unhappy with the way things were going with her That Poppy career. When she met fellow artist Titanic Sinclair, the two started collaborating on YouTube despite her label's protests. Their collaboration would bring her stardom, and eventually a ton of trouble. Before we talk about the trouble, though, let's talk about that stardom. Much of Poppy's appeal comes from her high-concept character that she described to The Guardian as, quote, an alien, an object, a computer, your pet. There are hundreds of odd, cute pastel tone videos on her YouTube channel which feature her doing nothing much, really. She might hang around with a plant or a mannequin, or she might silently eat candy floss. She might repeat the words, I'm Poppy, for 10 straight minutes, or reassure us that she's not in a cult.
I'm not in a cult.
Here's the catch, though. There's something oddly hypnotic about the character and the pacing of the videos, and it's extremely easy to fall down an online rabbit hole watching video after video of her doing whatever. In fact, Poppy's output in hushed tones have been compared to the popular ASMR, Autonomous Sensory Median Response, videos that some people find incredibly pleasing.
There's so many videos to watch on the internet. You're watching my video.
It also doesn't hurt that her videos have a strange, quietly ominous, disturbing quality to them, which fascinates many internet denizens to no end. As a result, she's the subject of various conspiracy theories and much bemusement. It's all very strange and more than enough to put her on the map. Apart from her career as a professional unnerver of YouTube viewers, Poppy is a very popular musician. Her first release was the 2016 EP called Bubble Bath, which she released on Island Records under the stage name That Poppy. According to NME, she soon morphed into her familiar Poppy form and started leaning more heavily into her cute yet robotic YouTube persona. The result was 2 albums of, quote, candy-flavored Robopop, 2017's Poppy Computer and 2018's Am I a Girl? In hindsight, however, it's easy to think that Poppy didn't exactly reach her full potential on those albums. A part of this was due to not one but 2 dodgy record deals, and the rest comes from her self-admitted failure to listen to her gut because she was trying to keep her body of work stylistically consistent. More recently, she said that she's, quote, working more on impulse than before, and if you compare her old music to her latest and easily heaviest album, 2020's I Disagree, it's pretty easy to see that she practices what she preaches. With the exception of some of her I Disagree era music videos, Poppy's output is not particularly visceral. However, there are often slightly unnerving elements woven into the Poppy fabric, and with the internet being what it is, this has led to some pretty wild conspiracy theories about her. In 2017, Business Insider and Mysterious Universe told us that Poppy was already the subject of an impressive array of wild tinfoil hat speculation, ranging from her being a robot or an otherwise inhuman figure to her being an Illuminati-controlled puppet or an unwilling test subject from the infamous Project MKUltra.
Programming complete.
Though many internet stars have become the subject of obsessive conspiracy theories, Poppy is different in that she intentionally fuels them, incorporating copious Illuminati symbols in her videos and selling a suspiciously specific t-shirt with the text, I am not in a cult led by Poppy. In one concert, she even invoked the 1978 Jonestown incident by passing out cups of Kool-Aid and announcing she wasn't responsible for any fatalities. Of course, the imagery Poppy drops here and there is likely just part of her concept, or is it? Many pop stars are revered figures who are essentially worshipped by their fans. According to Business Insider, Poppy has taken this to the next level by actually having a religion of her own. In fact, she didn't even have to found it herself, as a huge fan put it together for her. Appropriately enough, the religion is called Poppyism, and its holy book is a Google Doc called The Gospel of Poppy.
Poppy, our morning star, oh Poppy, our morning shining star, splendor of light eternal, shining with the glory of the rainbow.
It's unclear just how much Poppy herself is in on that particular action, but she's certainly been riding the cult leader aesthetic herself. She's also published a book under the name The Gospel of Poppy, and the Clarion notes that her concert staff have been known to act as brainwashed cultists, with the merchandise people handing out cards that tell the attendees to, quote, reserve your spot in the Church of Poppy. Regardless of all this, it appears that Poppy isn't planning to ditch online stardom in favor of building a megachurch. Her cult website, poppy.church, is now closed, and its message reveals that the whole thing was largely a, quote, experimental storytelling and fan platform.
God is real.
It's easy to assume that an artist as unusual as Poppy would have some equally strange side projects. Well, it's true, and one of her more offbeat projects is Poppy's very own comic book universe. Following the Gospel of Poppy, the artist dove headfirst into the world of comics. In 2019, she continued her oddly biblically named literary career with a comic book called Genesis 1, which told a version of her origin story. Poppy is already planning to continue her comic book domination in July 2020 with Damnation, Poppy's Inferno, and it looks like we'll quite literally see the character trudging through the underworld. Poppy enters a story in which there are those who literally seek to control and change her for their own purposes, leading her through the depths of hell in the process. A professional wrestling ring is pretty much the last place you'd imagine seeing a willowy, otherworldly performer like Poppy in, but not only has she worked with the WWE, she's basically a regular on their NXT brand. Don't worry, she doesn't actually wrestle anyone. Instead, she's performed several of her newer, harder tunes as theme songs of various NXT events and to promote a wrestler named Io Shirai. Don't think that Poppy has tuned down the oddness for these events, though.
Am I doing this right?
If anything, she's turned it up to 11. Revolver describes her November 2019 performance at an event as, quote, insane. It's hard to disagree when you notice that her creepy show puts even the worst heel wrestlers to shame, while her backing band consists entirely of people in form-fitting PVC clothes, creepy doll masks, and platinum blonde wigs that are reminiscent of Poppy's older hairstyles. In 2008, Poppy had a high-profile collaboration with Canadian musician Grimes. Unfortunately, Spin reports that the fruit of their labor, a song called Play Destroy, didn't exactly turn the two artists into BFFs. Poppy threw the first public stone in an interview with Billboard, stating that despite many months' attempts to get the song released, Grimes was standing in the way. Poppy went on to say that she was, quote, bullied into submission by Grimes and her people, stating, I got to watch her bully songwriters into signing NDAs and not taking credit for songs that they were a part of. Grimes addressed Poppy on Instagram, making clear that the YouTube star wasn't exactly her favorite coworker in history, saying, Poppy, you dragged me into a disgusting situation and won't stop punishing me for not wanting to be a part of it. I don't want to work with you. You leaked the song anyway. She then told Poppy to, quote, let it go.
My favorite thing about the internet is the arguments.
Poppy, it appears, did let it go. In a November 2019 interview with NME, the interviewer told Poppy how weird it was that Grimes' first single since the altercation, We Appreciate Power, was from an artificial intelligence point of view and almost seemed to dip into Poppy's aesthetic. Uninterested in revisiting the spat, Poppy dismissed it as, quote, kind of dead news. As Poppy's aesthetic literally took a turn for the dark, the change was reflected in her music as well. The artist explains it was rather organic, as when she was making Am I a Girl, she was already listening to heavier music, and the disconnect between her personal preferences and the relatively sugary tunes she was crafting in the studio was getting to her. She feels that it's the artist's right to evolve, and she compares her recent change to the way David Bowie moved away from his Ziggy Stardust character. That sort of radical tone shift might be a death sentence for some artists, but Poppy not only persevered, she soared. 2020's I Disagree entered Billboard's Emerging Artist chart at number 2, Hard Rock chart at number 5, and Top Rock Albums chart at number 15. The album also received some very, very nice reviews. Poppy's new direction drew comparisons to artists from Slipknot and Rammstein to the Beach Boys, and even traditionally heavy metal-focused outlets such as Kerrang! Couldn't help but admire the end product. And just like that, it seems like one of the hottest metal acts on the planet is a sweet-looking girl whose largest claim to fame used to be a bunch of strange YouTube videos where she acted like an artificial intelligence. Hey, maybe we live in a computer simulation after all.
Anything's possible on the internet.
So why did Poppy abruptly change her look and act so much? There's a story even darker than her music. When Poppy and Titanic Sinclair first met and hit it off, Sinclair compared the chance encounter with the future star as being, quote, like meeting David Bowie. Poppy and Sinclair made Poppy's famous YouTube videos together, putting more and more effort into it as she became increasingly unhappy with her record company at the time. Poppy admits that the dynamic seemed a lot like she was the hapless star and Sinclair was the man pulling the strings, but she insisted that the image was intentional and their partnership was evenly matched. Emphasis on the was. In December 2019, Poppy parted ways with Sinclair in the aftermath of a messy lawsuit involving Sinclair's old partner Mars Argo. In April 2018, Argo, a fellow YouTuber, sued both Poppy and Sinclair, alleging that she was the original version of the Poppy character and Moriah Pereira was merely a, quote, Mars Argo knockoff. Argo also sought a restraining order against Sinclair for domestic violence and noted that she endured, quote, severe emotional and psychological abuse and manipulation from him during their time together. That's some pretty heavy stuff.
Tomorrow is the day of retribution, the day I will have my revenge against humanity, against all of you.
Poppy was involved in the lawsuit for allegedly being a, quote, knowing accomplice to Sinclair's assortment of atrocities, and also because the lawsuit made some pretty awful allegations about the nature of her character by pointing out an uncomfortable amount of similarities between Mars Argo and Poppy. Though the case was ultimately settled, it did create an apparently permanent rift between Poppy and Sinclair, and Poppy has alleged that Sinclair inflicted similar wrongdoings on her as he allegedly did on Argo. Meanwhile, though the accusations of her character being a knockoff have obviously been settled as far as the law is concerned, many think it's no coincidence that Poppy's character has recently been transitioning into a new look and act. Poppy explained the situation in a social media post where she broke character, saying of Sinclair, I was never an accomplice to this person's past actions like some believe. I was a person who suffered similar wrongdoings as one of his former partners brought to light. She also stated that Sinclair had tried to, quote, grab attention in various underhanded ways. She went on to say that she had broken free of his influence and is now in a much happier and healthier place. We can't wait to see where she takes Poppy next. Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more grunge videos about your favorite stuff are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.